Hello, I'm Emily Rhodes. I'm here to tell you about the autumn books for Emily's Walking Book Club. As you can see, I'm outside. I thought the best way of telling you about the books, as it is a walking book club, is by going for a walk with you and with the books which are tucked into this bag. So we'll see how it goes. There are a few sort of noisy motorboats around because unfortunately I'm not on peaceful Hampstead Heath. I'm just going for a walk along a rather scorched patch of earth very close to where I live. So, the first book, September, Mrs. Palfrey at the Claremont by Elizabeth Taylor. This will be the first book that we have ever discussed twice. The last time we discussed it was in 2013 when we were actually featured on Radio 4's Ramblings with Claire Balding, and this was the book that I chose for that occasion. It's also the book that was Carrie's favourite book. Carrie was one of our sort of loyal, long-standing members. She joined very close to the beginning. Really sadly, after struggling with some illness, she passed away last August. So actually this walk is in part in memory for Carrie, and we're going to be raising some money to put up a memorial bench for her. So there's more about that on the website. Let me tell you a little bit about the book. Mrs. Palfrey is an elderly widow. She's moving into the quite grim Claremont hotel where there is full of sort of eccentric old people, and they're basically going there to spend their last days. There's famously they're not allowed to die there, but it's where they go and they really have nowhere else. And things are quite bleak. It's very kind of boredom sets in. It's quite banal. It's not a very nice scene, but it is, as well as being not very nice, it is sort of bitterly funny. She's got a very dry, wry sense of humour, Elizabeth Taylor. But things sort of look up for her when she has a chance encounter with a struggling young writer, and a rather sort of brilliant friendship begins. So yeah, that is our September walk. I'm going to try and stop at this bench and fish out the October book. It's quite hard doing this all one-handed. Okay, here we go. By the Sea. This is by Abdulrazak Gurnah. So two things to say first of all is that October, when we're discussing this book, is Black History Month, and also that Gurnah won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2021. But the main reason I've chosen this book is actually it's a really good book. It's so beautifully written. You kind of read it and it draws you in. The style's quite hypnotic. At first, maybe you don't think that much is happening. It's very descriptive. It begins. The main character arrives at Gatwick Airport seeking asylum from Zanzibar. And, he arrives with nothing. It's very grim reading this and kind of empathising with the plight of so many migrants today, and the battles they face and what they're running away from. But the plot kind of thickens when there's an encounter with someone from his past. And I don't want to give too much away, but sort of the stories unravel, secrets begin to come to the surface, and it sort of develops into a book about so much more than just a kind of sort of political book in a way. It's also a really wonderful work of literature. Okay, time for the next book. Hang on. So this is A Fortunate Man by John Berger, and I will also say it's by Mohr. I'm probably pronounced that totally wrong. John Berger, I think many of you will know as a critic and writer. He wrote that seminal book and did those TV shows called Ways of Seeing. And John Mohr was a photojournalist, I think, possibly just a photographer. Anyway, this book is really unusual. I'm just going to try and show you because it's very hard to flick through this single-handed while holding the phone. But I'm just going to give it a go. You can see there are photos kind of in conversation with the text as you go. It's the first book of this type that I've actually ever read, and also that we discussed on the book club. I love the combination of prose and photos, and it's a portrait of a country doctor in the 60s in England. He's a GP, and so there are these kind of colourful stories of the kind of cases he has to deal with, and he really explores his position in the village, that kind of quite unique position of seeing everyone but being kind of educated above them, but also in a position of sympathy and able to help. It's absolutely fascinating. It reminded me a little bit of one of our earlier books by Carlo Levi, Christ Stopped at Eberly. Again, a sort of the position a doctor holds in a sort of rural society, I suppose. And you can see it's quite a slim book, but it's so fascinating. And I think maybe particularly at the moment when we're really thinking about the NHS, which is under so much pressure, the role of GPs is one of those things that's often coming up, and we can sort of look at how things were then in the 60s and how they were today. So yeah, really unusual, fascinating book, the kind of collaboration between these two great artists in their own fields coming together in this book. And I should say it's non-fiction. It's sort of true story, true portrait, biography of this doctor, Dr. Sassel, if I remember the name right. Okay, last one. A Touch of Mistletoe by Barbara Comyns. Comyns? How would you say it? So, this, okay, I'm going to warn you straight away, it is a thick book. So allow yourself enough time. That's partly why I put it after a short book. It is a thick book, but you sort of zoom through it because the prose is so brilliant. She's so funny. She's just got such a great style. It's honestly, just reading it was such a pleasure. Well, I say that, it's a pleasure. It was also incredibly sad and powerful and upsetting. We have done another book by her. The name's now totally gone out of my head. I don't think it was The Vet's Daughter. It was a different one. Again, it's got a similar feeling of, young women going through a really tough time. It's all in here, like acute poverty, pregnancy, abortion, struggling to find work, getting really degrading jobs, sort of launching themselves on the world and hoping for an adventure, longing for that moment of freedom from what has been quite a tough childhood with an alcoholic mother, but actually finding that with that freedom comes great difficulty. So it's a strange book to say that it's life affirming, but I would say I did find it life affirming, even though it's quite bleak. But it is the sort of the blacker than black humour. I felt it was just such a tonic, and maybe particularly around Christmas, which can be quite a tough time, particularly with the world what it is at the moment. Maybe it's time when we actually, a good dose of really black humour is what we need, what I would prescribe if I were a country doctor. Anyway, all right, I'm going to turn around and come to the end of my little walk. Thank you for joining me. I hope you will come on some of the walks, but also to remind you that if you can't make it to Hampstead Heath for our monthly Sunday walks, we also have Monday evening Zooms. We have Friday live discussion threads once a month now too. There's my YouTube channel, and there's loads of ways of staying in touch and reading with us. So yeah, these are the 4 books. I don't think I'm quite coordinated enough to be able to hold them all while the phone and my bag, but I'll try and sort of show you. I'm stuffed in, can you see? No. There you go. Thank you for joining me on my little, my double ramble, my ramblings about the book while I ramble around my local neighbourhoods. Hopefully see you on a walk soon. Bye.